People on the right-wing side of politics are angry at Candace Owens right now because she's doing something modern culture brutally punishes. She is refusing to accept an official narrative on demand. What's revealing isn't even the specifics of what she's questioning. It's the reaction to the act of questioning itself. And before I go further, if you value conversations that don't rush you into certainty, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Not because I want agreement, but because these are the kinds of discussions that tend to disappear first. From a philosophical standpoint, power doesn't usually assert itself by proving things. It asserts itself by deciding which doubts are allowed to exist without consequence. From a metaphysical and esoteric perspective, this pattern is familiar and has been throughout history. Dominant narratives function like sigils. They're repeated, emotionally charged, and reinforced until they sit beneath conscious thought. Once embedded, defending the narrative feels like defending reality itself. Questioning it feels immoral, even when no accusation is being made. Candace isn't declaring a counter-truth. She's refusing premature closure. She's saying she doesn't consent to understanding events only through state-approved language. That alone is enough to provoke backlash. Because modern authority depends less on force and more on psychological alignment. And it's foolish to dismiss her outright as lying, grifting, or acting in bad faith, as so many commentators have. That kind of dismissal isn't discernment, it's a shortcut. It's what people reach for when uncertainty feels threatening. Writing someone off is easier than sitting with the possibility that something doesn't add up, or that corruption doesn't arrive wearing a villain's costume. Governments don't need to be omnipotent to be deeply corrupt. They only need to control the symbolic layer where meaning is assigned. Once that layer is managed, coherence replaces truth, and emotional unity gets mistaken for moral clarity. There's also something else that's difficult to ignore, and that's how quickly grief becomes public narrative management. How strange it is when private loss turns into a media tour. How rapidly interpretation hardens before questions are even allowed to breathe. None of that proves anything, but patterns matter, and when patterns repeat, attention sharpens. What complicates this for Candace is proximity. She isn't commenting from a distance. She knew Charlie Kirk personally. She spoke openly about him reconsidering positions and still does. About shifts already underway. When someone close introduces uncertainty, the response is never neutral. It isn't engagement, it's containment. Not because a conclusion has been challenged, but because doubt itself has entered a space where certainty is demanded. And people keep asking whether there's any evidence she could present that would finally make people see clearly. The uncomfortable truth is that proof isn't what's missing, because there's already a lot of inconsistencies that she and others too have shown or pointed out. What's missing is the willingness to see. Not because the truth is weak, but because evidence doesn't function the way people think it does once identity locks in. In moments like this, people aren't evaluating claims, they're defending meaning. They're inside a ritual state, not an evidentiary one. Even if all the contradictions were laid out, even if timelines didn't match and were shown not to, even if incentives, pressures, or inconsistencies have been calmly documented and set forth, it wouldn't turn the tide. It would be reframed as motive, as betrayal, as danger. Because once a narrative is sealed with outrage, it becomes moral urgency. It becomes self-protecting. Any challenge doesn't weaken it. It gets absorbed as proof that the questioner is the problem. The only thing that ever reaches people in moments like this isn't proof. It's pattern recognition. Quietly noticing what doesn't match how reality usually behaves. Letting contradictions sit unresolved. Allowing individuals to arrive at dissonance on their own. And that only works when escalation stops. At a certain point, pressing harder doesn't clarify truth. It changes the terrain. The conversation stops being about understanding and becomes about loyalty, perception, and emotional alignment. Facts matter less than momentum. Repetition replaces insight. Sometimes the most destabilizing act isn't exposure, it's restraint. Not backing down, not conceding, simply refusing to be pulled into a cycle that survives on reaction. In the unseen world, power doesn't move through declarations or evidence, but through control of attention, timing, and what feels permissible to question. So when doubt alone triggers outrage and conformity is mistaken for morality, what does that reveal about who is shaping the story you're meant to accept?